Yesterday was a day of bloodshed in Russia. There was quite a lot going on, both in terms of traditional terrorist attacks and military attacks, which had the effect of being a terrorist attack because it hit civilian population. We're going to talk about all that tomorrow. Like all of these situations that happen, there's a lot of chaos, a lot of conflicting information. It's very difficult to piece together exactly what did happen. But like we always do here, we're unintimidated and uncompromised on bringing you the information and the best analysis we can on the issues that matter the most. And so we're going to bring you what we know right now, what we think may have been happening, and then we're going to, when we don't know something, we're going to tell you that too, but we're going to stay on top of this and continue to bring you things as they evolve. But I don't want to wait until we have a complete clear picture because there are some things that are happening right now and some actions that are being taken in the assumption that certain things are true that could have ramifications, especially on the war in Ukraine and possibly even other assets of the U.S. elsewhere, because there's a lot of emotions are involved anytime you get terrorist attacks, and this is no exception. First of all, the two primary ones were in Dagestan in southern Russia. And if you can throw that map up there so people can see where Dagestan is, in case those may not know. It's one of the republics of the Russian Federation. You see there, it's just right next to Georgia, near Azerbaijan, Armenia, quite far south in the Russian Federation. And in the two towns, Derbant and, I may be pronouncing this correctly, Makhachkala, these two cities where there was a simultaneous attack in the afternoon yesterday, and this came on a Russian religious holiday. I think it's called Trinity Day in the Orthodox calendar. So a lot of people were on vacation. And this is the latest in a number of attacks that have happened in recent months. You know, of course, the Crocus issue that happened in Moscow itself, where the music hall was attacked allegedly by ISIS militants and certainly by Islamic fundamentalists, which caused lots of anxiety, lots of casualties there. This one resulted in at least 20 fatalities that we know of in the two places. They were definitely coordinated because they happened almost simultaneously in the two cities, and you can see a lot of that's the Crocus attack there that Gary's showing. But these kind of things have been going on for a long time. This one is one of the biggest issues for Russia. In their very diverse republics that they have, making up the Russian Federation, is that they have lots of Orthodox, they have some Jews, they have, of course, lots of Islam, lots of Muslims, and so getting all of these folks to live together has been a constant problem and a difficulty that they have. And so, the Russian Federation, the leadership, of course, wants to do everything they can to tamp any kind of religious issues down so that they don't cause, internal and expanding divisions. And that's definitely what's going on here. And there's definitely concern about that within the Russian Federation. They've been talking about that already. Some on some of the Russian media I looked at say this is, possibly the beginnings of a religious war within Russia that could tear the place apart if it's not handled quickly. But there's also an external component to this, because it wasn't just those two, but it was also on the same day, and which has many in Russia convinced that these things were all coordinated and timed together. And right now, no one can say it could literally have just been coincidental that these things happened, or it could have been planned. And the other thing I'm talking about, the external one, is in Sevastopol, in southern, on the Crimean Peninsula, where many Russians go for vacations on a beach. There was what's being reported as an American ATACMS attack, which hit the beach. And because it was a holiday, the beach was filled with, I think over 1,000 people. And there was quite a large number of casualties. I believe the last number I heard was 4 fatalities, one of which was a 2-year-old child. And also like 150 or something like that people were wounded, many taken to the hospital. 27, I think, were hospitalized. Just a terrifying thing for the people that were on the beach, as it's being reported. Russia claims that there was 5 ATACMS missiles fired by the Ukraine. American ATACMS missiles were fired by Ukraine into Sevastopol. They said that their their interceptors took down 5 of them. But one of them either was damaged and fell on the beach, or it just wasn't intercepted and it fell on the beach. This is what's being claimed by some as the launch of the ATACMS into Crimea. Number one, you see 8 missiles being fired here, not 5. But also you see it being fired in the nighttime, and this attack happened in daylight, so doesn't really seem like that's likely. I doubt that that's what happened here, but like I said, there's so much misinformation and disinformation when things like this happen. It's unclear exactly what's going on here, but I can assure you what's not unclear is the Russian response to this. They have been very, very angry about this. And in fact, the Kremlin has sent a direct warning to the United States saying that there will be consequences. I believe we have actually one of those. Yeah, that's the one here. This is from Russian RIA Novosti from the Russian media. They say that the Kremlin warned the United States that there will be consequences after this strike. We also had a pretty major issue diplomatically. The U.S. ambassador was summoned to the Kremlin to explain what was going on there. So it's something that Moscow is very, very unhappy about. The foreign ministry itself also put out a direct statement on what you see there on the headline there, the foreign ministry statement on the terrorist attack on Sevastopol. And part of that read, the involvement of the United States in this sinister crime is beyond doubt. Washington and its satellites have created and nurtured a neo-Nazi regime in Kiev, actively nurturing and supporting their Ukrainian puppets, waging a war against Russia with their hands and encouraging them to commit acts of international terrorism and kill Russian citizens, including with the use of one of its most terrible types of inhumane weapons, cluster munitions. A response to this crime will definitely follow. Now, it's unclear at this point what that's going to mean. And it's unclear what the U.S. ambassador may have said upon arrival. As I'm going to show you here in a second, there's a really odd, complete absence of any of this discussion on American media. Hardly any discussion of it at all, which would seem to be a pretty major news story that beachgoers were hit with an American weapon, American-provided weapon, and these cluster munitions, as Gary's showing there from, I believe that's Larry Johnson's site. What it is this a missile will fly over the target, and then it'll have what's called a warhead event, where the part of the casing comes off the sides, and then it releases lots of what they call small bomblets, or basically hand grenades, that will cover over a large area, and it's normally used on infantry to cause personnel damage. But when it's used on a beach against civilians, that's going to naturally cause lots of anxiety and anger among the people where it landed in their government. And that's exactly what's happening here. But it's not even being covered hardly in the West. In fact, let me just show you here, because I found it kind of interesting. So I'm going to show you, this is an active, if I can pull it up here. This is the Washington Post. Right now, this is live. And so you see, I'm going to roll down here. You're just not going to see anything on the Sevastopol issue. There's some stuff on I think low or down here, there's going to be something on the Dagestan issue, but we've got the mysterious trendy of baby names. They have room for that, but they don't seem to have anything on this beach here. And I think the same thing is true if I can switch over to the New York Times. This is also live. You see lots of stuff about abortion and stuff getting ready for the Trump Biden debate on Thursday, stuff in Israel. You do see something on the actual terrorist attack in Dagestan. It's risen to 20 here, but you're just not going to see anything on Sevastopol, like literally nothing. No stories here at all, unless they popped up since I looked at it before. But you see, I'm continuing to roll down here, and I just don't see any of them. So that is alone an issue. And Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, also released a statement of his own. He said that the involvement of the United States in direct involvement, as a result of which Russian civilians are killed, cannot be without consequences. Now, Russia, as we've been talking about in some recent issues, where Putin has been saying, that he's is troubled by the fact that the U.S. has authorized the use of its weapons on Russian territory. And of course, we don't recognize Crimea. The United States doesn't recognize Crimea as Russian territory, even though it was annexed in 2014. But we do recognize the ability to fire in other areas here. But the issue is that it's an American weapon, at least it was what was alleged. And let me point out, all I can tell you is what's being reported by various news sites. Gary and I, we scour all kinds of news sites, Russian, American, independent, others around the world. And we always kind of canvass them all to see if we can get an idea, because everybody's got their own biases. Everything that we have seen so far says that this was an American weapon. Now, the U.S. has yet to respond to it publicly. Lots of people have been asking for comments. The U.S. has literally said nothing. So we don't know if they're disputing it, if they're acknowledging it. We just don't know yet. But Russia is operating on the assumption that it was, and that they're saying there's going to be some consequences. Now, many I've talked to already, and I've canvassed a number of people who say, well, this is just another time where it's going to be bluster. Russia's going to say a bunch of stuff, and they're not going to do anything, because the thought being, they know that if Russia does something, if they actually cause harm or actually kill any Western people as a result of this, that it's going to cause a retaliation against them that they can't handle, so they won't do it. Maybe that'll be the case. That has been the case on many times before when we've done some things and we've escalated and we've crossed a lot of alleged Russian red lines. And there weren't any external responses to it. There were certainly a lot in Ukraine, and that could be the case again here. We just don't know. But one has to be cautious and concerned that at some point our genuine Russian red line is crossed. And I know from just looking at a cursory look of Russian media, this is an extremely emotional issue for them. To many, this has crossed a red line, and there's lots of that are saying yes, that these comments by Peskov or the foreign ministry should definitely be acted upon, and they want to see more of it, because they think, if we don't take any action now, it's just going to continue on, it's going to get worse, etc. So we're in a real dangerous time here, because if Russia does finally take some action outside the borders of Ukraine, then we have this significant risk of then escalation and it continuing to go above, a step above. And then, of course, that requires a retaliation and response from the other side. The worst thing that we can do is have this war escalate. It's a tragedy on its own right. And as you see on this channel, we've been doing everything we can to advocate an end to this war, negotiated settlement as soon as possible on the best terms available to stop the killing of all involved. And until that happens, we're going to continue to have risk. And when these kinds of incidents happen, whether they were intentional, whether it was accident, because there is some suggestion, Russia, by the way, claims that they shot down 4 of the 5 ATACMS missiles. Some of the debris from some of those actually landed on the beach goers as well. And then they claim one of them hit the beach. What we don't know is, we've seen this happen throughout the war in both countries, is that sometimes a missile is intercepted by an interceptor missile, and then it's diverted on and lands somewhere else. So it could be that as a result of trying to shoot the missile down, it actually fell on the beach by accident. But many Russians are convinced that it was targeted, and we just don't know. But the most important thing to understand here is that the Russians believe it, and the question is going to be, what are they going to do about it? And we just don't know at this point. We're going to continue to monitor this, but I'll tell you one thing that's not helpful is some of the Western reaction to this. There's certainly been many on the Ukraine side that have outright applauded it and said it's great, it's good that Russia suffers from some of this. And look, I'm not going to defend anything that anybody says. Part of that is understandable. If your country has been attacked, if your people, especially if any people have been killed in this, then you're going to have anger yourself. So that's you can probably understand part of that. But this one here, I'm going to show you one last piece here. This is an NGO, a NATO NGO, guy named Gunther Fellinger. He says, he was tweeted this out today, that we won the Cold War by arming the Taliban in Afghanistan to enable them to defeat the Soviet Union. We must do the same today by arming Russian internal Islam-based armed opposition to dismantle Russia. Number one, that is just absurd and stupid to do. because these things they work both ways. If Russia then sees and believes that NATO is actually acting to foster this kind of division inside of its country, which they do recognize is a risk to their internal cohesion, I can assure you they're not going to be passive with that. They are going to act. And do we want in the West Russia to start actively trying to sow division and especially support some who are using violent means against our countries? I assure you we don't. But when these are just so absurd, it's immoral. First of all, to say, yeah, let's foster the murder of other people in other people's countries by helping one side or another. But it's just stupid to say that kind of thing out loud and to say, yeah, let's do that. Not even thinking that has consequences, and a boomerang effect is very, very possible. Russia is famous, has been for well over a century, on doing tit for tat kind of things. I mean, all throughout the Cold War, they were very famous for tit for tat. You do something to Russia, they do something for you. That has not changed at all since the Soviet Union dissolved. The Russian state itself, since 1992, is constantly doing the tit for tat thing. The question is going to be, do you want them doing that to you, to NATO countries, to Europe, to the United States? Well, my answer is unequivocally no. So be quiet, shut up. Quit opening your mouth to do something that could harm us and doing something that's just unethical to the Russians themselves by saying we're going to cause division inside to dismantle Russia. I mean, that's just an absurd on the statement. I mean, do you not care? Do you not even notice that they have nuclear weapons? And that if you make somebody desperate who has nuclear weapons, they could very often use them. And especially if you're talking about causing the risk to this actual state of Russia. Look, we just had her on a show earlier today where Vladimir Putin himself said, if our territorial integrity is threatened, if our state is threatened, we will take action. We're not going to let that go. So absurd things like this Gunther fella here don't even realize that by doing this kind of action here, then you put in action the possibility that those things could happen. Even if you were successful, you could actually be spawning a nuclear exchange. Don't miss that. That's how stupid this kind of thing is here. That's all we're going to have for you today. Right now, that's the latest information we have. We're going to stay on top of this because this is a very volatile potential situation. And we're going to actually talk a little bit more about this on some of the Kremlin responses with the ever popular Alexander Mercouris at 2 o'clock today. So a little over an hour from now. Absolutely, you don't want to miss that one. Be sure and like and subscribe, by the way, so you get notified when these things come up, and to join our channel so you get some of the exclusive stuff that we talk about here. But, man, you're not going to want to miss this, and I'm really eager to get Alexander's viewpoints because he's got some really good viewpoints on this. So we will see you at 2 o'clock on Daniel Davis Deep Dive.